So now let's handle the touches. This is super easy. We have to wrap this container with a touchable component. In this case, I'm going to use a touchable without feedback, because when we tap on this container, we're going to see the image library, so there is no need for a second visual feedback. So here's our touchable. Now, whenever you import a touchable, always double check the import statement on the top. Make sure you're importing from React Native, not React Native gesture handlers. So back to our touchable. We handled the onPress event and set this to a function called handlePress. Now let's implement the function. In this function, if we don't have an image, we're going to show the image library. To do that, I'm going to borrow the code we wrote earlier in this section. So in app.js, let's copy this function and paste it over here. Good. And then we call it if we don't have an image. Now here we're using image picker. So let's import it on the top. Import everything as image picker from expo-image picker. Now we have to make a couple of changes in this function. When launching the image library, I want to pass an object. This is a configuration object. If you press Control and space, you can see all the properties of this object. All these properties are perfectly documented. In this video, we're going to use two of these properties. The first one is media types. So in this app, we only want to allow the user to select an image, not a video. So we set media types to image picker dot media type options dot images. The second property is quality, which is a number between 0 to 1. 1 means the highest quality, 0 means the lowest quality. In this case, I'm going to go with 0.5, so we get something in the mid-range, because later on, when we upload this image to the server, we don't want to deal with a large upload, okay? That was the first change. The second change is over here. Here we're trying to update our local state variable, but in this component, we already have a prop called image URI. It doesn't make sense to have both a prop and a state variable for the same purpose. So the component that uses our image input should be responsible for maintaining state. This is the same approach we took in the first part of the series. So when we used a text input or a picker component, that is where we define state. So here I'm going to add a second prop, onChangeImage. This is an event that this component is going to raise. So over here, when the user selects an image, we're going to call onChangeImage and notify the consumer of this component that the image is changed. And here we pass the URI to that image, okay? Now, let's go back to app.js and handle the onChange event. So we set this to a function. This function takes the URI of the new image, and this is where we update the state. So we call setImageURI and give it a new URI. Okay, now we no longer need these two components, so delete. Back to our component. So if we don't have an image, we're going to show the image library. Otherwise, we want to show an alert and ask the user if they want to delete the image. I'm not going to use the alert function because I want to customize the buttons on this alert box. So let's import the alert component of React Native. Now the first argument is the title of our dialog box. Let's set that to delete. Here's our message. Are you sure you want to delete this image? And the third argument is the array of buttons. So here we pass an object. Let's press Control and space. Here are the properties of this button. I'm going to set the text to yes. And onPress to, we should set this to a function. So when the user deletes this image, we don't want to physically delete it from the library. We just want to remove it from the container. So here we should call onChangeImage and pass null for the URI. We're telling the consumer of this component that there is no image inside the container, okay? And for our second button, we're going to set the text to no. Now, let's test our implementation. So here's our image. Tap. Do you want to delete it? No. Nothing happens. Good. Let's try one more time and delete the image. Perfect. Let's select a new image. our component is working properly, there is just one more piece I want to add here. We want this component to be completely reusable. So wherever we use this, I want this component to take care of getting users permission. I don't want to remember to explicitly ask the user's permission. So let's go to app.js and copy the request permission function. We paste it over here. Now we're going to use our effect hook. So use effect. We give it a function. We want this function to be called only once. So we pass an empty array. In this function, we're going to get the user's permission. So now we have a reusable image input component. Let's move on to the next step.